This tutorial is for National 5 musicians. Please could you take notes throughout the tutorial and then at the end take a photograph of your notes or type them up and send them to me on Teams. Thank you. This quiz about the classical style is aimed at National 5 musicians. However, if you're a higher or advanced higher musician and you want to have a go or use this quiz as revision, you are more than welcome. So the classical style of music was written approximately between 1750 and 1810, and it has a very distinctive sound. So hopefully after this quiz you'll be more confident recognising what that sound is. The first section of the quiz is going to concentrate on instruments. So without further ado, question number 1 is the opening of a trio written by Mozart. So a trio features 3 instruments. Can you name all 3? I hope you enjoyed listening to that, and I think I'll give you the answers as we go so that you can mark as you go and listen to things again if you need to. So the 3 instruments that you just heard was the piano, the clarinet and the viola. Now the piano is a typical instrument in classical style music because it is used now instead of the harpsichord. The harpsichord is a key instrument in the Baroque style of music, but in the classical style we hear the piano. Also the clarinet is a new instrument as well in the classical style. You don't hear clarinets in Baroque music, so if you're listening to a clarinet you know you can eliminate the Baroque period. And then it was very tricky as well, the final instrument, the viola. Now that's difficult to identify because it sounds similar to a violin and similar to a cello. The viola is bigger than the violin. It's actually got the same tuning as a cello, but obviously it's smaller than a cello. So that's really where examiners might try and catch you out and really test that you can hear the difference between different stringed instruments. So the piano, the clarinet and the viola were the instruments featured in that trio. Question 2. Now this is from a concerto. So you should know that a concerto is a solo instrument with an orchestra accompanying them. Can you identify the solo instrument playing with this orchestra? Again, it's another piece by Mozart. So the answer to that one was the French horn, and if you'd like to listen to that again, That was the rondo from Mozart's Horn Concerto No. 4. At National 5 level, you will be expected to know the difference between the trumpet, the trombone, the French horn and the tuba. If you didn't get that question correct, perhaps you'd like to listen to that one again. So question 3 is our last question on instruments in the classical style. We're going to hear another excerpt from a concerto. So the first part of question 3 will be, can you remember what a concerto is? And the second part of question 3 will be, please name the solo instrument. So the answers for question 3, part 1, is that a concerto is a work for solo instrument accompanied by an orchestra. I hope you got that one because I did mention that in question 2. And that the solo instrument there is a bassoon. Now that's a tricky one because a bassoon sounds similar to an oboe, but the pitch, the register, is much deeper. Bassoon is often used as a bass instrument, but the range of the bassoon is very, very wide and it can play in treble clef as well. So that's a tricky one. Get your ears used to listening to the sound of a bassoon. Perhaps you could listen to that concerto in full. If you want to do that, just look on YouTube, Mozart's Bassoon Concerto in B flat major, and enjoy listening to the full work. So question 4 is about the texture found in some piano music in the classical style. It's a particular way of playing broken chords in the accompaniment. I've done a concept video on broken chords, so if you're not sure what a broken chord is, you can go back and look over that video. I'm going to play an example now, and you're listening very particularly to the left hand, and the way that the left hand is playing the broken chords has a name that you need to know. Have a listen and see if you know what that name is. So the answer to question 4 is Alberti bass. It's an accompaniment in the left hand of the piano, which plays a broken chord, and it is really often used in music in the classical style. And it was named after this man who used it so much. He wasn't the first to use it, but he used it so much that that type of playing was named after him, Domenico Alberti. So question 5 is, can you remember the name of a large orchestral work, usually in 4 movements? That's right, the answer is a symphony. And the symphony is for a symphony orchestra, and although there are some instruments that might have solo phrases within the symphony, the work is really composed to show off the entire orchestra, so there's not one soloist. If there's one predominant soloist in any excerpt that you hear, it's more likely to be a concerto rather than a symphony. So to finish off this quiz, I'm going to play the whole of that movement, which is from Haydn's Symphony 104, the first movement of that symphony, for you to listen to and just enjoy the different sounds of the instruments in the classical style. Well done for having a go at this quiz, and I hope you're a little bit more confident now about some of the instruments you may come across. Alberti bass, the Symphony and Concerto. Well done for listening to the first movement of a symphony all the way through. So your final task is to find out more about Joseph Haydn, who wrote that symphony. In 50 words, can you give me a brief biography of Joseph Haydn? When you've finished, like usual, please can you take a photograph of your notes or type them up and send them to me on Teams. Thank you.